What if the exhaustion you feel is not a lack of strength, but a lack of alignment between how you live and how your body was designed to heal, adapt, and thrive? Every thought you repeat, every breath you rush, every night you cut short is quietly teaching your brain what kind of world it lives in, safe or threatening, nourishing or draining. Science now shows that the smallest daily choices are not small at all. They are biological instructions, rewriting your nervous system, reshaping your energy, and determining whether your body moves toward resilience or breakdown. Long before illness or clarity ever appears, the way you begin your day quietly programs the biology of everything that follows, long before you check a phone or speak a word. In the first moments after waking, your brain is emerging from a deeply restorative state, highly sensitive to signals from the environment, deciding whether the day ahead requires alertness, calm focus, or defensive stress. When natural light reaches your eyes soon after waking, it sends a powerful message to the brain's master clock, located deep within the hypothalamus, that the day has begun. This light suppresses melatonin, increases cortisol in a healthy, controlled way, and prepares your nervous system for wakefulness. Cortisol often carries a negative reputation, but in the morning it is essential, sharpening attention, mobilizing energy, and supporting memory formation. Without this natural rhythm, the brain becomes confused, leading to fatigue, poor concentration, and emotional instability later in the day. Gentle movement led into this early window deepens the effect. When you stretch, walk, or simply move with intention, you activate sensory pathways that remind the brain it inhabits a living, capable body. Muscles send feedback through nerves to the brain, increasing blood flow, oxygen delivery, and the release of neurochemicals that support alertness and mood. This is not about intensity or discipline, but about signaling safety and readiness. The body interprets smooth, controlled movement as a sign that the environment is stable, reducing unnecessary threat responses and lowering baseline anxiety. Over time, the brain learns this pattern and begins to associate mornings with grounded energy rather than urgency. Equally important is the mental tone you establish in these early moments. The brain is especially plastic upon waking, meaning neural connections are more easily strengthened or weakened. When the first thoughts of the day are rushed, fearful, or reactive, stress-related circuits are reinforced, and the nervous system carries the tension forward. But when you introduce even a brief pause, a moment of awareness, gratitude, or intention, you shift the brain's predictive model of the day. Science shows that the brain is constantly anticipating what comes next, and those predictions shape physiology. A calm, intentional morning trains the brain to expect clarity rather than chaos, subtly reducing stress hormones and improving emotional regulation. This habit also stabilizes metabolic health in ways that are often overlooked. A consistent morning routine helps regulate insulin sensitivity, appetite hormones, and energy utilization throughout the day. The body thrives on rhythm, and when waking times, light exposure, and movement are predictable, internal systems synchronize more efficiently. This synchronization reduces inflammation, supports immune function, and lowers the risk of chronic disease. What feels like a simple habit is actually a powerful act of biological alignment. Over weeks and months, this way of beginning the day reshapes the brain itself. Neural networks involved in focus, motivation, and emotional balance become stronger, while those linked to chronic stress and distraction gradually lose influence. The brain does not distinguish between big and small inputs. It only responds to repetition. Each morning becomes a vote cast for the kind of nervous system you are building. You are not forcing change, but allowing adaptation to occur naturally through consistency. Perhaps the most profound effect of this habit is psychological. When you start the day with light, movement, and intention, you reclaim authorship over your internal state. You remind yourself, not through words but through biology, that you are not merely reacting to life, but participating in it consciously. The brain learns that safety, clarity, and agency are available from within, and this lesson echoes through every choice, every interaction, and every challenge that follows, gently rewiring your relationship with your own body and mind. Breathing is the one function that exists at the intersection of the conscious and the automatic, quietly running in the background yet always available as a point of influence. Most of the time, we breathe without awareness, shaped by posture, emotion, and habit, and the body accepts this pattern as normal. When life becomes demanding, the breath often becomes shallow and fast, signaling the nervous system that danger may be near. This subtle shift activates stress responses that were designed for short bursts of survival, not for modern life where pressure can last for hours or days. Over time, this pattern trains the brain to remain on alert, increasing inflammation, disrupting sleep, and exhausting the body's ability to recover. Slow, conscious breathing interrupts this loop in a remarkably direct way. When you deliberately lengthen the breath, especially the exhale, you stimulate neural pathways connected to the vagus nerve, a major regulator of the parasympathetic nervous system. This system governs rest, digestion, repair, and emotional balance. The heart rate slows, blood pressure decreases, and the brain receives a clear message that the environment is safe enough to relax. What makes this powerful is its immediacy. Unlike cognitive techniques that require interpretation or belief, breathing works through pure physiology, bypassing mental resistance and speaking the language the body understands. With repetition, this practice begins to rewire how the brain interprets stress itself. The brain learns through association, and when moments of challenge are paired with calm breathing, stress no longer automatically triggers panic or shutdown. Instead, the nervous system becomes more flexible, able to move between states of activation and rest with ease. This adaptability is a hallmark of resilience. Scientific studies show that individuals with better autonomic regulation recover faster from emotional disturbances and maintain clearer thinking under pressure. The breath becomes a training tool, not just for calm, but for emotional intelligence. There is also a deep connection between breathing and inflammation, an often invisible contributor to many chronic conditions. Shallow breathing patterns reduce oxygen delivery and promote a state of low-grade physiological stress, encouraging inflammatory processes in the body. Slow, rhythmic breathing improves oxygen exchange and supports the balance of carbon dioxide, which plays a critical role in blood vessel function and cellular health. As inflammation decreases, the brain experiences improved clarity, mood stability, and energy levels. This is why breath-focused practices are increasingly being studied not only in mental health, but in cardiovascular and immune research. On a psychological level, conscious breathing cultivates awareness. When you focus on the sensation of air moving in and out, attention naturally shifts away from repetitive thought loops. This does not suppress thinking, but creates space between thoughts, allowing perspective to emerge. Over time, the brain strengthens networks associated with present-moment awareness and weakens those tied to rumination and anxiety. This gentle redirection of attention helps the mind respond to life with curiosity rather than fear. Perhaps most importantly, this habit restores a sense of agency during moments that feel overwhelming. Stress often creates the illusion that control has been lost, that the body is at the mercy of external events. Breathing reminds the nervous system that regulation is possible from within. Each slow breath is a signal of self-trust, reinforcing the belief that discomfort can be met with steadiness rather than resistance. The brain records this experience and adapts accordingly, reshaping emotional responses over time. As this practice becomes integrated into daily life, it changes the baseline state of the nervous system. The body begins to operate from a place of balance rather than constant vigilance. Energy is conserved, focus improves, and emotional reactions soften. What once required effort becomes automatic, as the brain learns a new default. In this way, breathing evolves from a background function into a quiet form of medicine, gently guiding the body and mind toward resilience, clarity, and inner stability. The way a day ends leaves a lasting imprint on the nervous system, often more powerful than the events that filled the hours before it. As evening approaches, the brain begins preparing for a shift from action to repair, guided by subtle changes in light, temperature, and internal chemistry. When this transition is rushed or disrupted, the nervous system remains partially alert, carrying the tension of the day into the night. Over time, this interferes with sleep, emotional regulation, and the body's ability to heal. Creating a consistent and gentle closing ritual gives the brain a clear signal that it is safe to let go. Sleep is not a passive state of unconsciousness, but a highly active biological process. During deep sleep, the brain clears metabolic waste that accumulates during waking hours, protecting neurons from damage and supporting long-term cognitive health. Memory networks are reorganized, emotional experiences are processed, and learning is stabilized. When sleep is shortened or fragmented, these processes are incomplete, leaving the brain less adaptable and more reactive the next day. Protecting sleep, therefore, is not indulgence but maintenance. The hours leading up to rest are especially influential. Exposure to bright artificial light late in the evening confuses the brain's internal clock, delaying the release of melatonin and shifting sleep timing. When light is softened and stimulation is reduced, the nervous system naturally slows. Heart rate decreases, muscles relax, and breathing becomes deeper. These physiological changes create the conditions necessary for restorative sleep. Over time, The brain learns this pattern and begins preparing for rest automatically as evening routines unfold. Reflection also plays a subtle role in this process. Taking a moment to mentally release the day allows the brain to categorize experiences rather than replay them. This reduces nighttime rumination, a common barrier to deep rest. When the mind is given permission to pause, emotional circuits can settle, and stress hormones decrease. This gentle disengagement trains the brain to recognize boundaries between effort and recovery, an essential skill for long-term well-being. Consistency strengthens these effects. When bedtime and waking time remain relatively stable, circadian rhythms become more precise. Hormones regulating appetite, mood, and immune function align more effectively. The body operates with less friction, conserving energy and reducing inflammation. This internal order enhances both physical resilience and mental clarity. Rest extends beyond sleep alone. Moments of stillness, calm breathing, or quiet presence before bed reinforce the message that productivity is not required at all times. These pauses counterbalance the constant stimulation of modern life, allowing the nervous system to recalibrate. Over time, the brain becomes less dependent on external distraction and more comfortable with silence, improving emotional regulation and focus. Perhaps the most profound transformation occurs in how the body responds to stress over time. With adequate rest, the nervous system becomes more adaptable, able to activate when needed and relax when the challenge passes. This flexibility protects against burnout and chronic illness. The brain learns that recovery is reliable, reducing the need to stay hypervigilant. Ending the day with intention also reshapes self-perception. When rest is honored, the brain receives a message of worth and care. This reinforces neural pathways associated with self-compassion and balance. Health becomes less about pushing harder and more about aligning with natural rhythms. The body responds with cooperation, and the mind settles into clarity, allowing each day to close not in exhaustion, but in restoration. The human body was designed for movement, yet modern life often encourages long periods of stillness that quietly signal the brain to conserve rather than adapt. When the body remains inactive, neural circuits associated with efficiency and resilience gradually weaken, and the brain begins to interpret stillness as a state of limitation. Physical effort, even in modest forms, reverses this message by reminding the nervous system that the body is capable of challenge and recovery. Movement becomes a language through which the body communicates strength, adaptability, and readiness to the brain. When muscles contract during physical activity, they release biochemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream to the brain. These substances support the growth and maintenance of neural connections, particularly in regions involved in memory, learning, and emotional regulation. This explains why regular movement is associated with sharper cognition and improved mood. The brain responds to physical challenge by becoming more plastic, meaning it can adapt and reorganize itself more effectively. This adaptability is not limited to physical tasks. It extends to problem-solving, emotional resilience, and creative thinking. The heart also plays a crucial role in this process. As it pumps more vigorously during movement, blood flow increases, delivering oxygen and nutrients to the brain. This enhanced circulation supports neuronal health and clears metabolic waste that can impair function. Over time, the cardiovascular system becomes more efficient, reducing resting heart rate and blood pressure. The brain interprets these changes as signs of improved internal stability, lowering baseline stress and enhancing emotional balance. What makes daily physical effort especially powerful is its relationship with stress. Movement provides a constructive outlet for tension stored in the body. Stress hormones released during challenging situations are metabolized through physical activity, preventing them from lingering and causing harm. This process teaches the brain that stress can be resolved through action rather than avoidance. The nervous system becomes less reactive, more grounded, and better equipped to return to a calm state after activation. Consistency matters more than intensity. When movement is integrated into daily life in sustainable ways, the brain begins to expect it. This expectation reshapes motivation pathways, making activity feel natural rather than forced. Each session of movement reinforces neural loops that associate effort with reward, gradually replacing patterns of avoidance with engagement. Over time, this rewiring strengthens self-trust and confidence, as the brain learns that the body can meet challenges without breaking. Movement also has a profound effect on emotional health. Physical activity stimulates the release of neurotransmitters that elevate mood and reduce anxiety. These chemicals act as natural regulators, buffering the effects of daily stress. Regular movement increases sensitivity to these neurotransmitters, meaning the brain responds more efficiently to positive signals. Emotional fluctuations become less extreme, and a sense of steadiness emerges. There is a deeper psychological shift that occurs when physical effort becomes a habit. Movement reconnects individuals with their physical presence, grounding attention in sensation rather than rumination. This embodied awareness reduces excessive mental chatter and fosters a sense of being anchored in the present moment. The brain learns that clarity often follows action, not thought alone. Over time, daily movement reshapes identity. The brain no longer sees the body as fragile or separate, but as a reliable partner in navigating life. This partnership strengthens resilience at every level, from cellular health to emotional stability. Movement becomes more than exercise. It becomes a reaffirmation of vitality, gently guiding the brain and body toward harmony and strength. The way we eat is often rushed, distracted, and shaped by habit rather than awareness. Yet every meal initiates a complex biological conversation between the gut, the brain, and the rest of the body. Food is not simply fuel, it is information. Each bite sends signals that influence hormones, immune responses, and even emotional states. When meals are irregular, overly processed, or consumed under stress, the body interprets this as unpredictability, and the brain adjusts by increasing vigilance and storing energy defensively. Over time, this pattern disrupts metabolic balance and creates cycles of fatigue, craving, and mood instability. When nourishment becomes intentional, timing and attention matter as much as nutrients. Eating at consistent times helps regulate insulin and blood sugar, reducing dramatic energy swings that strain the nervous system. Allowing the body clear breaks between meals activates cellular repair processes that enhance metabolic flexibility. During these periods, cells shift from constant energy storage to maintenance and renewal, improving efficiency and resilience. This rhythm teaches the body that resources are reliable, reducing the biological urgency that drives overeating and stress-related cravings. The gut plays a central role in this process, functioning as both a digestive organ and a communication hub. Trillions of microorganisms within the digestive tract influence how nutrients are absorbed, how inflammation is regulated, and how neurotransmitters are produced. Many of the chemicals that affect mood, motivation, and focus are either created or influenced in the gut. When whole, diverse foods are consumed with regularity, this ecosystem thrives, strengthening the gut barrier and reducing inflammatory signals sent to the brain. A calm, nourished gut sends messages of safety, supporting emotional stability and cognitive clarity. Mindful eating deepens this effect by changing how the nervous system responds during meals. When you eat slowly and with awareness, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes active, improving digestion and nutrient absorption. Stress hormones decrease, allowing the body to allocate energy toward repair rather than defense. The brain learns to associate eating with calm and satisfaction, reducing compulsive patterns and emotional eating. Over time, this rewiring shifts the relationship with food from control and guilt to trust and regulation. There is also a profound connection between nourishment and identity. Repeated patterns of eating shape how the brain perceives the body's needs. When nourishment is consistent and supportive, the brain reduces its fear of scarcity. Appetite hormones begin to function more accurately, signaling hunger and fullness with clarity rather than confusion. This biological trust reduces mental preoccupation with food, freeing cognitive resources for creativity, connection, and learning. From a scientific perspective, this habit reduces systemic inflammation, a common thread in many chronic diseases. Balanced nutrition supports mitochondrial health, the tiny energy centers within cells that power every function of the body. Healthy mitochondria improve endurance, brain function, and immune resilience. As cellular energy improves, so does emotional resilience, creating a feedback loop between physical nourishment and mental well-being. Perhaps most transformative is how intentional nourishment changes self-perception. When you consistently feed your body with care, the brain interprets this as an act of self-respect. This subtle message strengthens neural pathways associated with self-worth and agency. Health becomes less about restriction and more about alignment. The body responds not with resistance, but with cooperation. Over time, this habit becomes less about rules and more about listening. The brain becomes attuned to the body's signals, and the body responds with stability and energy. Nourishment evolves from a daily task into a biological dialogue rooted in rhythm, respect, and trust, gently rewiring the systems that govern health from the inside out.